Hey y'all, Katie here with Team EvoAZ, and welcome to the Arizona Monthly Market Housing Update with Matt and Katie, where you learn all about the greater Phoenix area housing market, including information on interest rates, what's happening with housing prices, and tips and tricks for buyers and sellers. Please like, subscribe, and download our episode so that we can continue to get this real news out to the real people.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to 2024. It's Katie and
Matt and
Ryan. Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey, team. Happy New Year. How are you?
Very good, very good, very good.
Doing great.
Awesome.
Excited for a great year.
Yes, 2024 is starting off busy for you, Ryan?
It is, yeah. It's really, we've had a lot of clients that kind of put things on hold last year, and a lot of them are starting to get off the fence right now and get pre-approved and start looking again. So it has been. Same for you guys?
Yeah, so it was really funny. It's almost like, the ball dropped for New Year's Eve and then our phones started going off.
Yep.
Nearly at the same time. So what do you think is the cause of the uptick, Ryan? What's going on in your lending world?
Yeah, start of the new year every year, the number one question we really start to get is, where are rates heading? That's what we're getting right now. Where are they going to go in 2024? And I spent a lot of time, over the past 3 weeks listening to the industry leaders out there that I know and trust, getting their feedback, getting their key data points. So I wanted to share really my findings with everyone. And as we discussed, the big story in the mortgage industry since it was March 16th. 2022 is that the Fed started increasing their funds rate to lower inflation because inflation hit highs that we haven't seen since 2008. And I know we talk a lot about it. When inflation is high, mortgage rates are high. It goes hand in hand. So we hit over 8% on mortgage rates in October of 2023, which was 23-year highs. But the good news is that these Fed rate hikes have done their job. And inflation has significantly drops from over 8%, which was the high, and to about 3% today. And because of this, the Federal Reserve, they stopped raising rates. And there's a 95% chance that by their May 1st meeting that they're going to announce some cuts. Maybe 0.5%, maybe they'll do a 1% over two meetings. So some economists feel that, cutting rates are going to be a little too late, though, and borrowing was too expensive for too long. So that we might see a short recession this year just because credit got so tight and spending had got so expensive. So long story short, to add this all together, really, the Fed dropping rates, a possible short recession because rates were high for so long, and inflation continuing to drop, really what that equals is lower mortgage rates. Today a 30-year fixed is at a 6.99% on a conventional rate. And as I mentioned, they were over 8. So we've seen a real good drop. And that's part of the reason our phones have been ringing. It's a new year and everybody's a lot more optimistic with where they're at and where they're heading. And many feel this is a prediction that we might be in the high 5. So we might see almost 1% more, part through the year or towards the end of the year. So that's the prediction. Looking forward to our December podcast to see how that holds up. But that's what everybody's predicting right now.
And what typically happens with home prices in a recession, Ryan? Is that good for home prices, or do we typically see them tick up?
Usually it is good for home prices because recessions always lead to lower mortgage rates. And as rates do go down, demand goes up. So that's typically what leads to higher purchase prices. And, from what we're seeing too, I definitely spent some time on the other side of thing, like home prices. And a lot of predictions are showing this is nationwide, but they're predicting maybe 4.5 to 5% appreciation, which is a good kind of, historic average. So we might be kind of back to our average appreciation where it's not, a boom or bust kind of cycles, which we see, like in 2008 and then 2020, but just kind of, more even keel, like the 5% range.
So suffice it to say, no sign of a housing crash in sight for 2024.
No.
And, I got to show you this because, I'm slide girl over here. But the real estate stats from Armless just came out. They release that every month. I talk about it all the time. And the gentleman that writes for the stat did say, and I underlined it here, there is certainly no sign whatsoever of a housing market crash. So those of you out there that are waiting for the crash to happen, you're going to be waiting for a little bit. So if it's something that you're really wanting to do, it's a good idea to start looking at things now, before we start getting busy, because I feel like we've already started and I feel like it's just going to get busier as we come into the spring season. But you are
Absolutely.
seeing you're seeing some interesting articles, Matt.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean? And it's pretty funny. I think we're all being kind of not programmed, but it's just like the byproduct of the news and what we get for information to, if we evolve properly, to figure out how to navigate the news and, when to say, what headlines to read, what headlines to believe the opposite of what is being said on the headline. And that seems to be the case nowadays. And one of the things that I found was really interesting over this last week is that there was a couple national news publications that were put out on big networks and names, and it was highlighting that, oh, real estate is in trouble, and what it was then, and then they had a picture that was very misleading, and it had a picture of a yard sign in front of a house, and ultimately it was, you read through the article, like most, you get through it and finally get to it, and it's talking about commercial, and it's all highly speculative, and yeah, there's some stuff looming on that side, but I myself kind of feel like, hey, that's a good sign for residential. When they're reaching that hard to try to make it look like, smell like it's an issue so they can get clickbait, they're not getting what they want. Um, so I do feel like we're in the middle. And to what you were saying, Ryan, about what they're planning to do with rates and what the general tone is of buyers and the consumer right now, I feel like there's a lot more confidence right now than there was 12 months ago. So that being said, I do think that consumers have had time to get conditioned, to kind of get comfortable with what these mortgage rates would translate to in mortgage prices, and kind of just accept it. It obviously, we see that in the rental side of things, and that's another good indicator. Rents are holding. It's not like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden something's happening. People are refusing to pay these amounts, and there's enough inventory for them to get what they want. It's not the case at all. Our inventory's actually been dropping, and rental rates are remaining the same.
I feel like we have been seeing the sky is falling in real estate articles for like the last 4 years.
Well, they love that. And it's like, even when it was skyrocketing, right?
Yeah.
Even in like the height of it, when we're seeing 10% a month of appreciation, they're still saying there's a chance. Um, it's pretty wild.
It is. And I think it's no secret, obviously, that things have slowed down and things have changed a bit, over the last couple of years, couple of months, whatever. And even in the stat report, they did suggest that it was a much needed correction. We're kind of correcting. And honestly, we couldn't keep going at that pace. I
No,
mean, that
no,
just wasn't healthy. We couldn't
not at
keep
all.
doing that.
No, it would have become unhealthy just because of supply and demand. And we would have just keep coming lower and lower with supply. And it just wouldn't have worked. I think that's what we're seeing right now too, because a lot of the inventory that is existent, that is there, you have a higher days on market.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people when you look at who really put their homes on the market in the last 90 days. Anyone that's really trying to put their home in the middle of a holiday season, in the middle of rates being the highest that they are, at the beginning of election cycles, you could go on with this list of things. They're usually in a predicament that they have to sell. So that is a form of almost a distressed sale. And when you look at a lot of these homes, I would say 90% of these people put into this position, there's some financial issues, and they're not delivering a product that is turnkey. So there are some underlying issues. They are holding on to yesterday's prices. So they are priced higher than they should be for what they're bringing to market. And that's kind of what's causing things to stale. And those things are holding on and keeping our inventory where we're at. But what we've seen is in the last few weeks is if you, especially even at the end of last year, if you put a home on the market that is turnkey and you price it appropriately, you will see multiple offers. And we're actually starting to see multiple offers and prices going above the list price.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just showed one on Saturday. Was it Saturday? I don't know. All of my days are blending together. But it was a $1.15 million house just came onto the market. Absolutely stunning. And they got an over the list price offer within 24 hours. It wasn't something that my buyers wanted to jump on. Honestly, they didn't love it. But it clearly worked for these people who made the offer, and they came in really strong. They wanted that home.
That's great. And what's interesting, what I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this year is the lock-in effect is kind of thawing. That's what we had last year, where homeowners were keeping their properties because they had rates in the twos and threes, even though
Yeah.
they wanted to move up, their family's growing, they wanted a bigger yard. So that kept inventory so low last year and prices going up, even though we saw 23-year highs in mortgage rates. And nationwide, we saw about 7% appreciation, even though we saw highs in rates. And what was interesting, I was reading a Zillow survey, and they found that 21% of homeowners are contemplating selling now within the next 2 years. And this has gone up about 15% just over the past few months. And another thing that's interesting is that there was in quarter 4 of 2023, they also did a survey where the willingness to sell amongst people who actually have rates above or below 5% are the same. So it really just kind of shows you that it's not the interest rate that they have anymore that's really making a difference. They're ready to move. They know rates are going down. So I do think that's really going to help our inventory this year and provide a lot more options for buyers. But of course, as rates go down, we'll have more buyers, and that will really balance the market out. So I do feel like that's going to be a big part of the story this year.
Totally
Yeah.
agree. And actually, KCM just came out with Keeping Current Matters, for those of you who might not know, just came out with a blog a couple of days ago that said something similarly, that the rates, are expected to lower in 2024. That's really great for sellers for two reasons. One is because it's going to help ease that burden of the home that they do purchase, so they don't have such sticker shock. And the second one is it's just going to bring more buyers onto the market, which is so those buyers are obviously going to create competition for each other, which is a great situation for the sellers.
100%. And I think, when it comes to like what you were saying with like, the rate lock syndrome, it's one of those things that a lot of these people aren't going to be motivated to start purchasing or selling their home until they see more availability of things that might spark their interest. And right now, I think that's the very limiting factor, as we just said. There's not a lot of turnkey homes, and when they are turnkey, they go super fast. So when you take those two ingredients and put that on someone that does have a really good, they're going to say it's not worth it yet. But once they start seeing, oh, okay, there's more opportunities coming up, people are adding stuff to the market, they're going to be that much more prepared to say, all right, we're serious, let's put our foot in this pool, and actually do this versus where they're at right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Something that has come up that's been a topic of conversation, I know here on this podcast a couple of times, Matt, you have mentioned it and people are starting to listen to you, I think. They're starting to catch on. Imagine that. But the new build world, there are some pretty amazing incentives that the builders are offering to buyers, and new builds are doing really well.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to add on that? I know that's kind of been something that you've been singing about for the last few months.
No, but yeah, I definitely do. I always have something to add. Come on. But no, I think they played it so well instead of doing this whole price drop thing. They were literally able to control their supply by being proactive and not being greedy and kind of seeing what happening before it happened and taking the precautions so they didn't have a bunch of inventory and they were obligated to ultimately just get rid of stuff. And I think that's really playing out to their favor now. And I think they're about to get heavily rewarded. I think right now, especially in the outer lying areas where you've brought up in previous podcasts, where those are going to be more of the buyer's market.
Yeah.
And which makes sense because it's a supply issue. There's going to be more options. Anyone looking to move out there, they're going to say, all right, can I get X? And is it worth waiting? Yeah, I get a brand new home. And I think a lot of people are in that position. And then when now you have new builds that can get creative with incentives and all of this, approaches, whether it's through lending, and Ryan, you can kind of speak to that. I think that gives them the leg up. What I think we're going to see though is I've got some buyers that are looking at new builds as well, and you can tell by the tone of the salesperson their confidence, and it's changed
Yeah.
drastically in the last 30 days, from the holiday lulls to the high rates now to, oh my gosh, we have a lot of people coming through the office. We have a lot of people that are very jumping off the fence. So I think new builds are going to be in this position where you're going to quickly see these incentives disappear in the next few months, and we're actually going to start seeing some price increases. Um, that right there is kind of the crystal ball to the resale market. We've always said it. If new builds are making adjustments and they're preparing for something, well, guess what? Resale better get ready. We're going to see it in the streets. Same thing here. New builds are like, where they're starting to see that churn. They're pulling more permits. They're doing a lot of things because they're preparing for it. We're going to see that in resale as well. And
Totally
Ryan,
agree.
yeah, I like your thoughts on that, because I know that some people feel like, hey, that's the only way to go, but it's not, right?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing, we have a lot of buyers who are pre-approved that are looking at resales, and then they take a trip into a new build community. And a lot of these new builds, when rates got so high, it made them nervous. So what a lot of people didn't really know is that they have partnerships. Sometimes they have their own banks that they own, or they actually have really deep partnerships with large lenders. And they were able to use, kind of like you said, Matt, they were kind of smart about the concessions that they were giving. They didn't really drop prices as much as they were giving a lot of incentives or giving really low interest rates. And we saw some of these preferred lenders taking, some of the margin, the profit that the banks were getting, and apply that to lower the interest rate. And we saw some that were offering rates almost 2% less than what the current market was giving. So we definitely saw a lot of our buyers kind of gravitate towards, though, brand new house, rate 2% lower. It's yeah, you could understand why they were gravitating towards these new build communities that are kind of more in the outskirts and a little bit more affordable as well. So it's important because there's so many more new family formations, not enough inventory out there to keep up with it. So we really are relying on new builds to start kind of evening out the inventory and bringing prices to an affordable level for first time home buyers.
Yeah. And Armless touched on that too with the stat report that just recently came out, and shared that new construction has been steady and consistent for the past 5 years. So pretty impressive there for the new builds, because, I'm not saying that this time is anything like the crash that we had, way back
Yeah.
when, but they definitely treated things a lot differently back then. They made some different decisions. And so nice to see that, things are going well in that area for them, and that they are offering some really great opportunities for buyers out there.
Yeah, and if you actually
100%.
look at a lot of the numbers too, that they're still not keeping up with the projected demand that's going to be out
They're
there.
not.
Right.
And it's interesting because, of course, the millennial generation is one of the biggest generations out there, and they're all hitting the age typically when you buy your first home. And
Mhm.
and right now, when you look at it, obviously the inventory out there is not enough to accommodate all these new family formations for millennials. And on top of that, the builders can't really keep up with the future demand, or they're a little nervous to do so just in case they build too much and have issues in the future. So it'll be interesting, but that's going to be the key. We do need more new homes built to accommodate all this demand.
100%. And if you look at it, the driving forces they're literally 180 degrees from each other, from what was driving the fact of building homes in 2004 before the crash up, and why they're building homes now. In 2000, when they were building homes before the crash, they were building homes for the sole purpose of making money on the sale of that home. The demand really wasn't even there. The demand was put there artificially by investors and or homeowners that were leveraging money that they didn't have to buy this thing that was going to ultimately be part of like a retirement or a different additional income or something. Nowadays, it's a total opposite. I mean, people are actually, they need a home. They want to buy a home. And in these areas that they're building homes, there's actually going to be industry. Whereas in 2004, you go all the way out to Queen Creek, but all the jobs were an hour, 2 hours away through traffic, and that was crazy. You had to rationalize that. Now it's the opposite. Then you also go into what's happened is remote work. Huge portion of people are saying
Right.
that's cool because I can live out in these areas because I don't need to drive that, or I only do it once a week. So you have these huge factors that I think have driven it to make this more realistic and a lot more healthy. And just look at the East Valley. Look at what's happening with the economy in Queen Creek to what was happening in 2004 and five. It's night and day. So I think you're exactly right. And this is a really big solution, a good solution, and very healthy for the long term of Arizona, at least.
Totally agree. All right, buyers, get on out there. Take a look at the opportunities you have now because we don't know how long they're going to be there. All right, guys, anything else you'd like to add?
Looking forward to a great year, guys.
Yeah, great year. Definitely good information, and it's going to be fun. It's an election year. There's going to be a lot of good information, and I'm sure volatile times and everything that comes along with that. So buckle up, but this is probably the best time. It is the best time, especially if you're in that position in life to purchase, to really think about it, because I think when things do pick up and rates do drop, it's going to be competitive.
Totally agree. And we're already seeing signs of it. So take it from us, guys. If you would like to check out any of our previous episodes, see what we predicted, I don't know, a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, see if we're right, guys. Hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at Team EvoAZ. That's our handle. You will see the monthly market housing update playlist there. Do all the things, notify, like, download, subscribe. That way you do not miss this monthly market update. It will come straight to you. You will be notified. If you would rather listen to it, maybe you run a lot, bike a lot, hike a lot, hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for Arizona Real Estate Radio, and you can connect with us there as well. Do all the things, hit the bell, and that way you will never miss a thing. And you will have all kinds of wonderful things to say at the dinner table and for holidays and things like that. Because real estate's always a topic. Come on.
True.
It is. And thank everybody for tuning in. I know, this year there's probably going to be a lot of those clickbait type articles out there, maybe doom and gloom, things like that. So thanks for tuning in, because that's what we do here. We try to get you the real news and the real information, so you can kind of look past some of that stuff.
For sure. We'll be here to debunk again next month.
Yes.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.